Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are as a Ugandan. James William Mugeni is my name. I'm a medical clinic officer by profession. I'm also a certified public manager. Well, there was a friend who said, James, you too much of in Uganda than in the United States. And I think that is partly correct. But then, what would you make of somebody who has lived for 51 years in Uganda? Definitely, America has not made me. Yes, I do respond to issues that are pertinent in Uganda that affect us and that are of concern to every other person, like, anyone who cares. I am responding to an issue that I feel Ugandans were living in denial. Were living in denial. The issue is, I'm quoting the Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, Deputy Speaker is called Teyebwa, and this is I'm reading it from a newspaper. Yes, a newspaper, but online, where Teyebwa says, "Hell on you! We shall not tolerate your devilish acts." Deputy Speaker Teyebwa orders probe into homosexuality in schools. And Deputy Speaker of Parliament Thomas Teyebwa has directed the Education Committee of Parliament to comprehensively investigate alleged homosexual practices in Ugandan schools. Deputy Speaker, if we continue living in denial and continue accusing whoever we think is responsible for destroying our culture, we are lying to ourselves. Deputy Speaker, let me first tell you one thing, that we had originally what we call the Parent Teachers Association. And I think if people remember, it stopped. Parent Teachers Association was disbanded. The Parent Teachers Association was a bridge between parents and students and whatever in schools. My school was St. Peter's College, Tororo. And we were about 1,000 students in that school at that time. And we had only school nurse, two school nurses running 1,000 students, adults, teenagers, and whatever. As a medical clinic officer, I just realized that was underserving the students. And I happened to have had an opportunity in the early 90s, mid 90s and late 90s. I happened to have had an engagement with Straight Talk Foundation. I think Straight Talk Foundation was formed by Kathy Watson, Capital Radio, or William Pike. There was a lady who ran Straight Talk Foundation. And under the school health programs, I managed to almost visit all schools in Uganda, both primary and secondary schools. We visited. And we used to have a lot of sessions and counseling sessions with students and pupils and what have you. Mr. Teyebwa, the biggest problem in secondary schools and maybe some primary schools are reproductive health issues. And when I say reproductive health issues, they cut across. There are several sexual practices we discovered in most of the schools. And for example, I came up and started advocating for safe abortions because we found out that so many secondary school girls needed this service and they're not given. And I remember user-friendly reproductive health services is a term that you all heard of. Now, what kind of investigation I think is not user-friendly. You will not yield the results. But there was a lot of work done by Kathy Watson of Straight Talk Foundation. You can find out a lot of documented evidence of sexual practices in secondary schools that require an addressing. And amongst the other things that we recommended and recommendations, that secondary schools need more healthcare coverage than a school nurse. I was mentioning St. Peter's College. 1,000 students with 2 school nurses. That is underserving. Eventually, I think I visited Ginger SS with over 2,000 students, and I think also with the school nurse only. So you'll find that most of those schools have reproductive needs that require proper instituted medical care. So some of these investigations people want to run into, they're riffraff. You not come up with anything. I was a condom focal person for prisons. I think if I aside, you should remember me if you look at my face. And one of the questions I used to ask you that why do you give condoms to prisons? And the simple answers you used to give me that they know how to use them. Men in prison, I used to go and demonstrate how to use condoms in prisons. I remember at one time we had you call it a surge in STI, STDs in prisoners. And I was one of the people who was treating prisoners with STI, STDs. So homosexuality is something that we have, that has been in our population, that is in our populations, that we shouldn't attribute to Bazungu. But it's more of a moral issue that requires being addressed by the whole community. Religions, you're failing in your work, one must say so. So these are things that cut across, that it's not an act of parliament. No. I think as a country, we're now too corrupt. We're too corrupt to be able to address some of these things. But like I've said, all secondary schools, all schools in Uganda, I one time advocated seriously that for me, wherever there's a secondary school, I would institute a health center there. For example, Ginger SS with 2,000 students. And most of our catchment areas in sub-districts have a population of 300 people, about 300, 400 people. But you're having a school of 1,000 students, 2,000 students. Major issues in those schools are reproductive health issues. That all the schools need user-friendly. One time I was advocating that maybe we need to give family planning in schools, and some parents and some people are saying no. But if you look at the rate at which girls are bought, I remember I never slept. My phone was always calling. And say, girl in need. Yes, personally, and so many people, I knew clinics where to refer them. These girls needed these services. So there's a need to pay attention to secondary schools, not just a matter of parliament should go and investigate homosexuality. No, the health issues in schools. Senior women in schools do very little work. I think, to me, if we approached using the method I'm talking of, having a schools institute a proper health program for schools would be the way to go. And disbanding the parent teachers association is one of these are some of the results. We talk about homosexuality in schools. Look back at your actions. Why did we disband the parents teachers association? A meeting now that requires maybe if parents ever came together, they have to write to Ochola. They have to write to UPDF that they're going to have a meeting about their children. Ugandans think who have slept for a long time, and yes, we're now reaping. Greetings and thank you for listening to me.